All right, we're back with another match from one of our leagues with Lantern Control. We opened up a pretty nice hand here. We kind of have Lantern, enough Disruption, and Surgical plus Bridge. So just looking for a Codex Shredder. We're gonna lead on Spire plus Lantern here. There's no reason to lead on Glimmer Void and risk Force of Negation or something like that. So we just play out Lantern, and we see a Sacred Foundry. Our initial thoughts on the Foundry are kind of burn. Something like that. And then we see the next card is Cultivator Colossus. So the combination of red, white, and Cultivator Colossus is most likely going to be Tameshi combo. There aren't too many other decks that you see Sacred Foundry and Colossus in, but the Tameshi combo wants red for red and 6, whereas a lot of the Amulet lists with Cultivator Colossus do not. We see they suspend a Lotus Bloom on their first turn, which is going to confirm that they're on this Tameshi list, as it's kind of the key combo piece with Tameshi. So hopefully we're able to use Surgical Extraction or Pending to take some key pieces from them. Now we draw second bridge and see the third land on top, which is good. We'll be able to get second bridge. Obviously we'd prefer an Urza Saga or a Codex Shredder here, but at least we'll be able to cast bridge. We cast an Inquisition here, and I think we have a really difficult choice, as Ella Domri's Call is going to get the other half of the combo. Teferi is an answer for bridge. Wargate is an answer for bridge and can also find the combo. And then we just see another Leyline Binding in hand. So what I like to do here is to go for Wargate and then Surgical the Wargate, as it's going to be a key, kind of can help them find anything. Ella Domri's Call, again, Wargate is going to find it anyway. The call is maybe a bit faster, but I think it's kind of still the same end goal. Teferi, we do have 2 bridges, so Teferi can only bounce 1, and we can Pending Teferi, so that we don't have to keep playing the same bridge. And we have 2 bridges, so Leyline Binding can only kill 1 of them, whereas like with Wargate, they're going to be able to get up to enough mana to ramp it out. Maybe I should have taken the call. I think it's fine to take the Wargate here. Which is what we do in there. They're going to take their Lotus Bloom off suspend, and we're going to Surgical the Wargate here. Again, just minimizing their answers. So exiling all of those, kind of we get to see they do have a lot of answers for us in their deck, so it's going to be hard to lock them, especially with what they have in hand, but we're going to try. So they play that Sacred Foundry, and they're just leaving up the call here. Not really much we can do about it with what we have in hand. So we're going to just go and just play a bridge. Got to get it down at some point, and got to be mana efficient. We're kind of saving the Pending for when they play Teferi, and then they're going to call here for Tameshi, kind of the other half of the combo with Lotus Bloom that will resolve shortly next turn. So kind of by next turn we're in trouble. Yeah, they're gonna play a Temple Garden and run out of Teferi. This is fine. All what we planned for based on what we knew in hand. Unfortunately, we do see another Teferi on top. So I think if we Lantern here, our winning percentage is incredibly low regardless, and our only kind of hope of winning is hoping we can find a Codex Shredder very quickly. So I think Lantern, sacking Lantern might delay it. I don't think it actually gets us to a point where we're winning in the game in any meaningful way. So I run out bridge here instead of pending the Teferi, as I'm kind of hoping they'll get to a point where they're willing to like tick 1 Teferi up to 3, down tick it so it dies, and then play the second one, and then we can use the pending to get rid of it. So they get their Lotus Bloom here, just going to give them a lot of extra mana. Obviously can't interact much on their turn. They're going to play Tameshi here, and at this point we're pretty much dead. They're able to bounce bridge with Teferi or Leyline Binding, as we'll see here. Yeah, they just are able to bounce the Lotus Bloom, or like return the lands, getting the Lotus Bloom out. That's going to get them into a Cultivator Colossus, and they're just going to have so many draws here that and between Ren and 6, like they're gonna be able to find so much action here that we just concede. With Tameshi, we know they have the Colossus in hand, plus a bunch of lands. They're gonna be able to pick up 3 lands plus the like 3 they already have in hand, meaning they're going at least 6 cards deep, probably 10 or 11, 12 more realistically. They're gonna have a ton of mana. Between Ren and 6, Boseiju, we know they already have answers to bridge. Boseiju will be in their deck, so they'll likely be able to loop Ren and Boseiju, and I just don't think there's any winning line for us here, so I elect to just go to game 2 right away. When sideboarding for game 2, we've elected to take out a couple copies of bridge. I think they're not going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on us, and constructs are going to be a very real plan. And we're cutting Ancient Stirrings just to trim. Usually when we're trimming, we cut either Stirrings or Hand Disruption, and this is a matchup where we really want Hand Disruption, so we're not going to cut it. In terms of what we're bringing in, Haywire Mites, Pithing Needles, Life from the Loam, kind of to get a bit more grind, and a Soulless Jailer to kind of stop some of their exile and graveyard looping shenanigans. As we get into the game here, I think we keep a fine hand. Having Surgical plus good Disruption I think is nice. Haywire Mite can take care of a binding. Kind of rough that we're only on 1 land, but hopefully we can draw out of it. So we're going to Inquisition them here and take an Endurance. Take a Lotus Bloom. So we are, we see they kind of have removal spell and not much else. If we're able to Surgical the Lotus Bloom here, we are going to shut off their combo, so they're not going to be able to combo us. It's going to make it a lot harder for them, and hopefully we can just draw a couple lands. We already have the answer to Leyline Binding, so we're kind of looking for lands and bridge here. We're going to actually Surgical in their upkeep, because if we wait till their draw step, they can draw a green card, which, as we'll see, most of their deck is. When we Surgical here, we're going to kind of look and notice that Boseiju is kind of their main answer. To Boseiju, Teferi, some Leyline Bindings, and then those are their main answers. Valakut additionally is an extra win con. Ren and 6 looping Boseiju is obviously very bad for us, but kind of just noting what we need to target with Pithing Needle first, mainly Boseiju and Teferi. Interestingly, to note, if they use Wargate to search a Boseiju onto the battlefield, they can then bounce it later with Tameshi. So that's definitely something to watch out for, as we still need a needle on Boseiju at some point, even if they don't have a way of drawing it, even if it's on the battlefield. So we exile their Lotus Blooms, kind of have them shut off the combo, and we find a Stirrings. So we kind of have to fire it off to find a land here, which we do. It would have been really nice if this land was Saga, but we kind of have to take anything we can get here. Also, additionally, it's kind of unfortunate we're putting 1 copy of Bridge to the bottom, and you may remember we took out 2 copies, so there's only kind of one Bridge left in our top chunk of our library. Hopefully we can either find a shuffle effect or like a Saga or some way of getting those bridges in. So we see another binding on top of their deck, but they're using their fetch land anyway, and it's still there. Shocker. Library doesn't move, but that's Moto for you. Again, sacrificing Lantern here, I think we're struggling either way, so might as well have the knowledge of what we're gonna get. Generally, I'm not super aggressive in when I sacrifice Lantern. It's kind of only if I'm like immediately gonna die, as it's often hard to rebuild a board state without Lantern, and you're likely to die without it anyway. And like I said, we are able to Thoughtseize here and take a binding. Kind of see that they have mostly lands, which is good, but unfortunately they are all going to shuffle, so they will be able to control their draws somewhat. And then we just run out the Haywire Mite to be able to stop their other binding that they have in hand. They're going to shuffle here, get rid of the land that they have on top. We do see an Up the Beanstalk isn't great. It's probably going to draw them into an answer before we're able to find what we're looking for, and they have Tameshi on top. Again, not a huge threat here. It's only going to clock us for 2 a turn. Hopefully we can either find a Saga or something like that rather rather quickly. He does leave Binding Mana open here, and we're going to cast a Needle, just naming Boseiju as, Wargate. It's a bit easier to search for, and they have the same number of Boseiju and Teferi, so it's kind of an arbitrary decision which you want to look for here. And we do have a Shredder on top, which can hopefully dig us into kind of a bridge or saga or something more that we're looking for here. I think I could have used, you might say, why didn't I use Needle with a Blooming Marsh and then exile up the Beanstalk? And it's because I want to have the Haywire Might open. I just want to be able to exile Leyline to be here. Yeah, so they're going to flash out the Binding just to draw a card. And like said, we're just going to exile it in response here. We don't want them drawing a Boseiju. And we see a Wargate on top. So again, what we talked about them being able to find Boseiju and then bounce it with Tameshi would kind of come up here. Yeah, we draw the Shredder, and then now we're going to pending the Beanstalk just to limit their draw here, as we don't have any other use for the mana, and we do really want them to be on one card a turn, as the Lantern Lock is much more powerful when they're only drawing one card a turn. We're kind of hoping they use their fetch land here, but when they don't, we do have to exile Wargate, as we don't want it sitting in their hand, as it'll eventually get a Teferi. So they draw a land here, which is good for us. Unfortunately, Tameshi does also give them kind of an extra draw each turn if they just want to bounce a land. So they are going to be able to rip through their deck faster than we are. We just play out Haywire Might kind of as a chump blocker eventually. And they flash in Endurance, so we kind of need a bridge quickly here. It's kind of unfortunate that we took a couple out and then ended up needing them. They're just going to play a Call. She's going to get a Colossus, which is not an immediate threat, but will provide them with a lot of value in the future. Again, another reason to name Boseiju, as it's easier for them to force a Boseiju through. And it's another way of them picking it up with the Colossus. We're going to elect to just take the damage here. And at this point, it's kind of find a bridge, which we do. They're going to call for a Colossus, and they got Teferi on top. And at this point, we concede here. If we sack Lantern, they get in for 5. Their Colossus comes down the next turn. And again, you might say it's a bit early, but I don't think we have much of a chance anyway. So unfortunately, this one slips away. A lot of these decks that kind of have so many answers and very high card velocity can be challenging if we don't have a fast lock. So the Ren and 6, Leyline Binding, the Call, Wargate, Teferi, so many answers that and they get to see so many that they're able to usually put pressure on us in multiple different angles, where they're able to both go for the combo and then kind of have enough pressure that it can cause trouble for us. I think if we had Urza Saga, this game turns out a lot differently, as then we're the ones putting the pressure on them. But it is what it is, so we'll get them in the next one.